Thank you for inviting me to be part of your living library. I had never heard that term before, and I love it. It makes me think about how much choice I have to to choose my chapters, and I yeah, it's just an awesome concept. Thank you. So you have asked me to talk about my experience with the Give Me Shelter Solidarity Shindig fundraiser that we did. Um, so I'll start with saying I had an interest in going to Tijuana to see what was happening down there. And I called a good friend and said, "Hey, do you have connections in Tijuana? I'd like to get there." And he said, "Yeah, let me see what I can do." And this is my friend John Baker, who has been such a mentor for me in the last few years. I adore him. And so he got back to me a couple of days later and said, "Yeah, I have some connections, and would you like to go?" And I said, "Yeah, I sure would." And he said, "Awesome." So we went to Madre Assunta, which is a shelter for women and children. And the plan was that we would stay there and volunteer as we could. And we would stay at the shelter down the road for men, which was Casa de Inmigrante. And out of that experience, I was able to meet the attorneys at El Otro Lado, which is to the other side. And they offer legal clinics to asylum seekers and refugees in Tijuana. So they're pretty amazing. And when we had a chance to talk with one of the founders, she said, "If you want to continue making a difference, go back to your communities and do what makes sense to you." And I thought that was so wonderful. She didn't have an answer for us. She said, "Go look inside and see what works for you." And so that's what I did. And what made sense to me was a fundraiser. They need money, obviously. And it was John who said, "Well, while you're raising funds, don't forget you want to raise friends." And I loved that. And of course, raising awareness. So we created an event where people would have fun and open their wallets and make new friends and expand opportunities to make a difference. And it was hugely successful. And what I noticed is when people learned what I was doing, they were all on board. How can I help? What can I do? This is what I'm good at. And what I've discovered is when you give somebody the opportunity to do what they're good at, there's a lot of passion. And so we had fabulous musicians and we had wonderful artists donating their work, and we had dancers and we had speakers, and it was lovely. There were so many good things happening in that night. But what also came out of that night were people who had just thought they were volunteering, had become passionate about participating at a deeper level. And there were 5 folks who had just wanted to help organize that ended up joining John and I on our next trip to the shelter. And these were 5 people who stopped their lives to go to Tijuana, put themselves in a situation that they'd never been in before. One of the women was in her 60s and terrified of going to Tijuana. And her comment was, "I can't just keep writing checks. I have to give more." And I loved that. And the opportunity to be with her as she made that transition from somebody who was writing checks to being on the front lines was such an honor. So powerful. And the other thing that came out of that was not only the week that they spent there, But the connections that they made to 10 African asylum seekers at the shelter where we were staying, they gave their numbers, and they helped those men through the process of being detained, of finding attorneys and finding sponsors and finding money to pay for all those things. Those 5 people accompanied those 10 men through the process of being detained and being released, which, as anyone can imagine, changes the lives of so many people all at the same time. So for me, the opportunity to grow in ways that are really important for me comes from being around people who are, boy, it's hard because you think you're going to help people, but what you find are the people that are in the worst situations are the people who are really helping you to be the person that you want to be. The women, the children, the men, just, I have no words for the gratitude that comes from being in the presence of people who live their lives on the front lines in a way that I can't imagine. And their capacity to keep loving and to stay strong and to allow people grace. I don't have the words. I might have gone someplace that I don't know, but I guess that's what we do when we're out here. We go places we don't know, whether it's physically or emotionally or mentally. But I think that that's what there is to do. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to be a living library and to consider that there's so much mystery in being a library. Thank you.